The breast cancer diagnosis came on a Tuesday in March. Stage 2, triple negative, aggressive. Dr. Patterson laid out the treatment plan: surgery, then chemotherapy, then radiation. 6 months minimum. I was 34, single, living in the house I bought 5 years earlier outside Portland. The house was my pride, my investment, my security. My sister Julia was the first person I called. "Oh my God, are you okay? What do you need?" "I don't know yet. Surgery is in 2 weeks. I'm coming over. You shouldn't be alone." She showed up with takeout. We sat in my living room and she cried more than I did. "You're going to beat this. You're strong." The lumpectomy went well, but the chemo protocol was brutal. 8 rounds, every 2 weeks. I started in April. Julia came to my first infusion, sat with me for 4 hours, drove me home, made me soup, seemed genuinely supportive. By the 3rd round, she'd moved into my guest room. "You need someone here. What if you fall?" I was too tired to argue. The chemo was destroying me. Julia cooked, cleaned, managed my medications, drove me to appointments. She also started making comments about the house. "This is a lot of space for one person. The mortgage, utilities, maintenance. Maybe you should think about downsizing." "I'm not selling my house. If treatment gets expensive, if you can't work, you might need the equity." I was too sick to engage. Medical leave covered 60% of my salary, but money was tight. Round 5 was the worst. I ended up hospitalized for 3 days with a fever and dangerously low white blood cell count, neutropenic sepsis. They pumped me full of antibiotics and monitored me constantly. Julia visited daily, brought me things from home, updated my friends, managed everything, and apparently took photos of my house. I discovered this by accident. I was in the hospital, bored and scrolling through my phone, when I got a Google alert I'd set up years ago for my address. Someone had listed a property in my neighborhood. Curious, I clicked the link. It was my house, on Zillow, listed for $495,000. I stared at the screen, certain I was hallucinating from the fever or the medications. But no. There were photos of my living room, my kitchen, my bedroom, professional photos, a detailed description, open house scheduled for Sunday. I called Julia. "Hey, how are you feeling? Why is my house listed for sale on Zillow?" Silence. "Julia, why are there photos of my house on a real estate website?" "Oh, that. I was going to talk to you about that." "Talk to me about selling my house without my permission? You're really sick, Sarah. The doctor said your white blood cell count is critically low. You might not be able to continue treatment. I talked to a realtor friend, and she said we should list it now while the market's good, before you get sicker." "Before I get sicker? You mean before I die?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "I'm trying to help you. If you can't keep up with the mortgage, if treatment bankrupts you, you'll lose the house anyway. This way, you can sell it on your terms. Get the equity. Use it for medical bills." I didn't agree to this. "You're not thinking clearly. The chemo, the medications, the infection. You're not in a position to make major decisions right now. I'm trying to protect your interests." "By selling my house without telling me?" "I'm telling you now. And honestly, Sarah, you need to be realistic. You might not be coming home. The doctors are worried. Your counts are really low. You might need to go into long-term care, a hospice situation. In that case, what's the point of keeping an empty house?" The words hit like a physical blow. "You think I'm dying. I think you're very sick. And I think someone needs to make practical decisions." "Someone, or you specifically?" "I'm your sister. I'm your emergency contact. I'm the one who's been taking care of everything. I'm trying to help." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from the fever. From rage, from betrayal. Julia wasn't preparing for my possible death. She was planning for it. Hoping for it, maybe. My house was worth nearly $500,000. If I died and she was my next of kin, she'd inherit everything. But I wasn't dead, and I wasn't going to let her steal my house. I called my lawyer, Thomas, a college friend who'd handled my house purchase and my will. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Sarah? How are you? I need your help. My sister is trying to sell my house without my permission. She's listed it online. She told the realtor she has authority to sell it." "Does she have power of attorney?" "No, I never gave her that." "Then she has no legal authority. I can send a cease and desist to the realtor immediately." "But Sarah, we should talk about protecting your assets." If you're worried about your sister trying to control your property, we need to take steps. What kind of steps? You could transfer the property into a trust. Or, if you're interested in estate planning, you could donate it. Get the tax benefit while you're alive and ensure it goes where you want it to go. Donate it? To whom? Well, given your situation, you might consider a cancer research organization. There's the Northwest Cancer Research Institute here in Portland. They accept property donations. You get a significant tax deduction and ensure your sister can't touch it. I thought about Julia's face when she told me I might not be coming home, about the photos she'd taken while I was sick, about the open house scheduled for Sunday. Tell me more about the donation process. Thomas explained. I could donate the house to the Research Institute. They take possession, either use it for their purposes or sell it to fund research. I'd get a charitable deduction for the fair market value. The transfer would be immediate and irrevocable. Do it, I said. Draw up the papers. I'll sign them as soon as I'm out of the hospital. Sarah, are you sure? This is your home. My home that my sister is trying to steal. Yes, I'm sure. It took 3 days to arrange. Thomas brought the papers to the hospital. I signed them in my bed, with a nurse as a witness. The deed transfer was filed with the county that afternoon. My house no longer belonged to me. It belonged to the Northwest Cancer Research Institute. I didn't tell Julia. I was discharged from the hospital on Saturday. Julia picked me up, drove me home, and settled me on the couch. She was cheerful, attentive, made me lunch, and asked how I was feeling. She didn't mention the Zillow listing. She didn't mention the open house scheduled for the next day. On Sunday morning, she left the house at 9, said she had errands to run. I knew where she was going. I stayed on the couch, weak but alert, waiting. At 11, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find 3 people in business attire, a woman in her 50s, a younger man, and an older gentleman with a briefcase. Miss Sarah Thompson? Yes. I'm Dr. Margaret Winters, Executive Director of the Northwest Cancer Research Institute. This is David Park, our legal counsel, and Dr. James Morrison, our board chairman. May we come in? Of course. They sat in my living room. Dr. Winters smiled warmly. First, let me say how grateful we are for your extraordinary generosity. Donating your home to fund cancer research is an incredible gift. I'm glad it can help. We wanted to come by personally to discuss the logistics. Our understanding is that you're currently in treatment and you've arranged to live here until you're ready to transition. Is that correct? Yes. My lawyer said I could stay until my treatment is complete and I find other housing. Absolutely. There's no rush. We want you to be comfortable and focus on your health. She paused. However, we do need to address an issue. It appears someone has listed this property for sale online. A realtor contacted us asking about the listing, and we had to inform them that the property is no longer privately owned. It belongs to our institute. That would be my sister. She listed it without my permission. We thought it might be something like that. Our legal counsel will handle it, but we wanted to meet you and make sure you're okay. The doorbell rang again. I opened it to find Julia, her face flushed and furious. What the hell is going on? The realtor just called me screaming about fraud. She said the property isn't for sale. She said I don't have authority. She's threatening to report me. She pushed past me and saw the 3 people in my living room. Who are you? Dr. Winters stood, extending her hand. Dr. Margaret Winters, Executive Director of the Northwest Cancer Research Institute. You must be Julia. Julia's face went white. What? We're the legal owners of this property. Sarah generously donated her home to our organization last week. The deed has been transferred and recorded. This house belongs to the institute now. That's impossible. Sarah's sick. She's not capable of making decisions like that. On the contrary, David Park said, standing. Ms. Thompson was evaluated by her medical team and deemed fully competent. She consulted with legal counsel, understood the implications, and signed the transfer documents of her own free will. The donation is legal and binding. Julia turned to me. You gave away your house? You gave it away? I donated it to cancer research, so it could help people. You're insane. The chemo has made you insane. You just gave away $500,000. I gave it to an organization that's trying to cure cancer. Something you might care about if you actually cared about me instead of my assets. I do care about you. I've been taking care of you for months. You've been waiting for me to die so you could inherit my house. You listed it for sale while I was in the hospital fighting sepsis. You told people I was too sick to come home. I was trying to help you. You were trying to help yourself. Dr. Morrison spoke for the first time, his voice gentle but firm. Ms. Thompson, I think it's best if you leave now. You have no legal standing here. This is not your property. Sarah is my sister. This is her house. Was her house, David Park corrected. Now it belongs to the Institute. If you continue to claim ownership or attempt to sell the property, we will pursue legal action for fraud. Julia looked between all of us, her face cycling through shock, rage, and something like panic. You can't do this. Sarah, you need me. You can't survive on your own. You're sick. You need someone to take care of you. I needed someone to support me while I fought cancer. What I got was someone who took photos of my house and put it on Zillow. Those aren't the same thing. I'll contest this. I'll get a lawyer. I'll prove you weren't competent to make this decision. You're welcome to try, Thomas said, walking in from the kitchen where he'd been waiting. I'm Sarah's attorney. I have complete documentation of her competency, including medical evaluations. You have no case. Julia stared at him, then at me. I can't believe you do this. I've been living here, taking care of you, and you just gave away my inheritance. Your inheritance? This was never your house. But I'm your sister. I'm your family. When you die, I should get something. If I die, you'll get nothing. And right now, I need you to leave. She didn't move. Ms. Thompson, Dr. Morrison said firmly, you need to leave this property immediately. If you don't, we'll call the police. Julia grabbed her purse, her face twisted with fury. You're going to regret this. All of you. She slammed the door on her way out. My phone started buzzing immediately. Text after text after text. I glanced at it and saw they were all from Julia. Dr. Winters smiled kindly. Why don't you silence that for now? You don't need that stress. I put my phone on silent, but I could see the notification count climbing. 10 messages, 20, 50. By evening, it had reached 167 messages. I didn't read any of them. Thomas advised me to keep them as evidence in case Julia tried to pursue legal action, but not to engage. Dr. Winters and her colleagues stayed for another hour, going over the details. I could live in the house rent-free until I was healthy enough to move. They'd cover the utilities and maintenance. They were in no rush to sell the property. Their priority was supporting my recovery. This is an unusual situation, Dr. Winters admitted. We don't often meet our donors during such difficult circumstances. But your generosity, even while fighting your own battle, is remarkable. I just wanted to make sure it went somewhere meaningful, not to someone who was waiting for me to die. Well, it will certainly be meaningful. Your donation will fund years of research. You're quite literally helping to save lives. After they left, I sat alone in my living room. My house that was no longer mine, my home that I had given away to spite my sister and help others. My phone was still lighting up with messages. 167 and counting. I thought about Julia at that first oncology appointment, crying, promising to help me through this. I thought about her moving into the guest room, cooking meals, driving me to infusions. I thought about her taking photos of my house while I was hospitalized, listing it online, telling people I was too sick to come home. The chemo had taught me that some cells look healthy but are actually poisonous. They multiply, spread, destroy from within. You have to cut them out to survive. Julia had been poisonous all along. I'd just been too trusting to see it. My phone buzzed with message 168. I turned it off completely. 3 months later, I finished chemotherapy. The scan showed no evidence of disease. I was in remission. I moved into a small apartment, started rebuilding my life, and eventually went back to work. The Research Institute sold my house for $510,000. Every penny went to cancer research. Julia sent a final message through my aunt. I can't believe you gave away everything out of spite. But it wasn't spite, it was survival. I'd learned that you can't let poisonous people destroy you while you're fighting to live. Sometimes the best treatment plan isn't just for the cancer in your body, it's for the cancer in your family too.